The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, or opinions of the listener. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. GPTs and AI technologies were not used or harmed in the creation of this podcast. This podcast is 100% human-made by me, your host, Melanie. Hi, hello. My name is Melanie, and this is Under the Moon Paranormal Presents Ohio Legends. One quick announcement before we start the show. If you'd like to help this podcast out in any way, shape, or form, we only ask you to go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel Under the Moon Paranormal. So, let's dive into this month's episode. This month's episode is brought to you by the full moon in August of 2025, Sturgeon Moon, which will occur on August 9th at 2025 at 3:55 a.m. Eastern Time, and it is in the sign of Aquarius. This astrological significance of this full moon, the full moon will bring the time for creative expression and experimentation, encouraging individuals to embrace their unique personalities and break free from traditional norms. This period is a time of romance, fertilization, and relationships, as the moon illuminates feelings and attitudes are already present in our lives. For the full moon is a transitional period, prompting individuals to take stock of their lives and make important decisions, as well as to collect personal harvests. This full moon will be influenced by Uranus, which brings innovation and opportunities for creative success. This full moon is a time for reflection and potential and for significant and social changes. So the name Sturgeon Moon comes from way back. The Native American tribe noticed that the sturgeon fish were easier to catch in the Great Lakes around this time of year. This full moon signaled a peak fishing season. It is connected to nature and ancient ways of life. Isn't it cool how the full moon links us to these old traditions? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you fish more in August? I mean, I'm kind of curious. I know my brother does. Do you guys fish more? Let me know. So this full moon, I encourage you to amplify nature. Take a walk under the moonlight, sit by the lake or by the river and just listen to the water, or even tend to your gardens under the moonlight. Nature is the best place to connect to the sturgeon moon. So that is your full moon report. So this month's episode, I wanted to do like a cluster episode, like to go back to like the beginning in season 1, the roots, where I used to take one like county or one town and told you like all kinds of things about that. So since we're talking about the sturgeon moon and fishing and being by lakes and rivers, I thought we would just go ahead and talk about the Ohio River. The Ohio River connects, to different states. And I always talk about things on the border or across the Ohio River, right? So why not talk about the Ohio River itself? There's a lot of creepy things that I discovered about the Ohio River. Let's get into it. The Queen City, as Henry Wadsworth Longfellow famously wrote, sits in her garden dresses on the banks of the beautiful river. Once claimed by the French and named by them exactly that, La Belle Riviere, the Ohio River has been the soul and foundation of our city in Cincinnati since the first houses went up. But our beautiful river has also proved to be weird and a moody companion, coughing up bizarre mysteries, sea creatures, ghost ships, murder. Here are 17 things that are uncommon curiosities about the Ohio River. Number 1 on our list is alligators. In 1879, Jackson Howell produced a live, 3-foot-long alligator for display at the Museum of Cincinnati Society of Natural History. The reptile had been captured on Covington Shore, while several others were spotted frolicking in the Ohio River among some empty coal barges. 3 years later, John Thornton found an alligator sleeping beneath the floorboards of his Newport ice house. Charles Pitts of Covington lassoed a 3.5-foot alligator from the Ohio River at the foot of Covington's Main Street in 1870. Alligators. No, thank you. Almost from the time Cincinnati was first settled, bodies have been discovered from the Ohio River, including unalivements, victims of foul play, and accidental drownings. People really don't go swimming in the Ohio River. Among the earliest casualties was Francis Kennedy, who operated the first ferry between Cincinnati and northern Kentucky. and who drowned while hauling beef cattle to Fort Washington. Over the years, the old newspapers printed hundreds of inquest reports, often directed towards and asserting the identities of bodies found overnight. Catfish of unusual size is our next topic. My daughter Phoebe is terrified of catfish, always has been, and I think she still is to this day, and she's in her 20s. The Cincinnati Commercial Tribune of February 3rd, 1849 reports that Frederick Disserens, proprietor of the William Tell Restaurant, and Colonel Joshua J. Stratton of the Firehouse Department had shipped a mammoth catfish, in quotation, mammoth catfish, the Exchange Hotel in Philadelphia. That's where they shipped it to. The Leviathan was caught in the Ohio River in Cincinnati, measured at least 5 feet, 10 inches in length, and tipped the scales at 158 pounds. That's a big fish. Prior to its shipment east, the beast hung outside the Disserens establishment on the south side of what is now Government Square. In 2009, 2 fishermen landed a blue catfish measuring 4 feet 6 inches long and weighing 96 pounds with the view of downtown Cincinnati. Within that view of downtown Cincinnati, they caught this big blue catfish. So, the next topic of discussion, chemical slug. That's right, slug. The Ohio River, lined with heavy fertilized farmland and a multitude of manufacturing plants, is regularly listed along the most polluted streams in America. The residents of a certain age will recall the giant carbon slug of 1977, when a tank full of carbon tet, or toxic, ruptured at the FMC Corporation facility in February of that year. It released 5,000 to 6,000 pounds into the Ohio River, and as a 50 to 60 mile slug of highly polluted liquid. Water purification systems up and down the river shut off intake valves until the slug passed. So, like, it wasn't a real slug. It was this toxic carbon tet. A tank full of it ruptured and went into the Ohio River and into the water supply. Ew, that's really weird if you ask me, but it's Ohio. Anything's possible. Oh. Elephant bathing is the next one. All of Cincinnati and Covington, too, turned out to the morning of August 9th, 1860, to watch the elephant swim across the Ohio River. The elephant was Lalla Rookh, Lalla-Rookh, star of the Dan Rice Circus. This elephant had been, for the past decade, a highlight of Dan Rice's big top extravaganzas. Billed as the pachyderm princess, she was famous for her tightrope act, and she also danced, rang bells, and fired pistols. Wow, this elephant's pretty talented. She was a huge draw, and according to the Cincinnati Enquirer, brought out a good crowd for her river bath, estimated between 1860 August 9th, is what they're saying. 1860 August 9th, that's like, wow, today. The elephant took a bath in the Ohio River, and people were just so happy to see that. Well, I mean, back in 1860, you really didn't have a whole lot to do now, did you? Right? Okay, so the next one is some ghost stories. No one ever solved the 1890 murder of Billy Fee, who was knifed and shot on the banks of the Ohio River near Lawrenceburg. Almost a year later, a young man traveling by boat up the river past the murder scene cried out that he could see shadows on a darkened water, vividly recreating the murder scene. So it was like a memory being replayed on the Ohio River. For years, residents of Lawrenceburg venturing near the river at night reported visions of a dreadful crime accompanied by the sounds of shrieks and gunshots. So it seems like the murder of Billy Fee, it keeps replaying, possibly on the night of his death. But maybe it's like just random. Who knows? Giant snakes is the next one. On August 11th, 1849, a Claremont County man, a man of respect, okay, they put that in quotation marks. His name was John Waite. He swore to a newspaper in which he claimed to have seen a snake more than 30 feet in length on the banks of Hartman's Mill Pond. A posse was assembled with their pitchforks and torches and searched all over for the beast, with no result. Even after draining the Mill Pond, sightings, however, continued for the next decade. In 1858, the Cincinnati Commercial Tribune reported that the dam at the Hartman's Mill had been badly damaged by a flood, and that the snake was assumed to have escaped toward the Ohio River. According to a 1940 newspaper article, the Cincinnati Post, the Cincinnati Zoo offered to help citizens near Gallipolis locate the snake, estimated at 35 feet in length. No reports on if it was ever caught. So, the next one is called the green-clawed beast. It was a sultry afternoon on August 14th, 1955, when Naomi Johnson and some of her friends headed to the Ohio River at Evansville for a refreshing dip. Nobody goes swimming in the Ohio River. This is probably one of the reasons why. While swimming just 15 feet offshore, something swam up behind Mrs. Johnson and grabbed her leg. She felt claws scratching her leg, and as the thing pulled her under the water, she began kicking her assailant and was pulled under a second time before her friends lifted her out of the river. Her left leg was extremely lacerated and bruised, so something definitely grabbed a hold of her leg, with one mark distinctively hand-shaped. Okay. Mrs. Johnson claimed to have seen a UFO just before she was attacked, and there were several UFO sightings in the Evansville area around the time of the incident, leading her to believe an extraterrestrial origin was her attacker. So let me know in the comments what you think about the green-clawed beast. Is it extraterrestrial, or is it a big old snapping turtle? Let me know. But if it was a snapping turtle, maybe she wouldn't have any toes, because they would have snapped it off. So, I mean, it was something grabbed her leg. Was it an alien? I don't know. So, the Kentucky border is the next topic. For most of the region's history, the entire Ohio River belonged exclusively to Kentucky. And that all changed on January 21st, 1980, when the United States Supreme Court, I hate the Supreme Court, fixed the border between Ohio and Kentucky at the low water mark of the river in 1792. With 2 centuries of dam construction and other improvements, the Ohio River is significantly deeper and wider than it was in the 1790s. The border is now, in some cases, hundreds of feet off the Ohio shore. Okay, this next one is called Madonna's Yacht. Madonna, the singer Madonna. Rusting away in an Ohio River tributary, just 25 miles downriver from the Cincinnati, is an 186-foot yacht, originally known as the Celt, but probably most famous as the USS Sachem, among a variety of names acquired over the 120-year history. Thomas Edison used it for an anti-submarine research. It ran out of New York as a recreational fishing vessel and served as a coastal patrol ship during the World War II. After the war, it hauled tourists around Manhattan. Robert Milley of Finneytown bought the yacht for $7,500 in the 1980s and rented it out to Madonna, who filmed her Papa Don't Preach video on board. Miller hauled it upriver to its current resting place shortly after sailing a boatload of friends around the redemption of the Statue of Liberty in 1986. And it is just sitting at the Ohio River now. Isn't that weird? I think that's weird. It's just rusting away. Anyway, here's the next one. It's called Man Afloat. On March 11, 1879, a crowd of 15,000 swarmed to the riverfront to catch a glimpse of the fearless frogmen. Captain Paul Boyant he arrived in Cincinnati while floating from Pittsburgh to Charo in a buoyant rubber suit, outfitted with sails and oars. He was a particular life-saving dress code, like it was made out of rubber, the first rubber suit, I guess. It allowed him to maintain speeds of 5 or 6 miles per hour on his downriver odyssey. That night he attended a performance at the Grand Opry House on Vine Street. Being recognized, he called to his stage and compelled to give a speech. So, this floating man. That's a curiosity about the Ohio River. Ohio has mermaids. Mud mermaids, that is. The Cincinnati Enquirer on September 6th of 1894 reported 2 nondescript creatures, horrible in appearance and strange in habits, at a sandbar in the Ohio River near Vevey, Indiana. The creatures appeared to be carnivorous, dining on fish and mussels plucked from the river. They were described as being yellowish in color, about 5 feet long, with webbed claws in hands and feet. Their hairless heads had sharply pointed ears standing straight up. In the years since, the Vevey beings have been dubbed as mud mermaids. That sounds so gross. I would never want to become across a mud mermaid, especially in Ohio. The next one is called Octoman. Police dispatchers along both sides of the Ohio River were swamped with frantic calls from the late January to early February of 1959, as dozens of residents and travelers reported strange creatures emerging from the depths. Sightings were recorded from New Richmond to the Licking River Bridge. One witness compared the critter to an octopus, while others said it would look like an immense human, leading to the nickname Octoman. Panic spread, with one 11-year-old boy calling the Cincinnati Post to confirm his teacher's story that green men were clambering out of the river in platoons of 12. To add to the mystery, all the streetlights along Kellogg Avenue from Lunken Airport to Coney Island extinguished as the first reports came in. After a week, sightings of the Octoman seemingly disappeared. Now that's an alien. Guarantee you, that was an alien. The next topic is petroglyphs. Just as the Ohio River slips across the state line from Pennsylvania as a junction with Little Beaver Creek in East Liverpool, it covers a vast array of submerged designs carved into rocks. First recognized by French explorers in 1755, the display has been largely immersed in a much deeper river, only occasionally emerging into visibility in times of extreme droughts. Hundreds of these Native American carvings were found for about 10 miles along the Ohio River from Midland, Pennsylvania, well through Wellsville, Ohio. The origin or dates of the petroglyphs remain unknown and will likely never be determined. I told you guys, Native Americans were all over Ohio. This land belongs to natives, not rich white men. So the next topic is sea lion. In May of 1962, several people reported a strange beast frolicking in the Ohio River near Furbank Locks. The animal was not large, maybe 3 feet in length, but it was unlike anything naturally associated with the wildlife of the area. An expedition organized by Cincinnati Zoo discovered that a mysterious visitor was a sea lion named Playful George, and that had escaped from the Mangerie in Huntington, West Virginia, and made its way nearly 200 miles downriver to the Markland Dam. George was captured and quarantined at the zoo before being returned home. The next one is sea serpents. Not just giant snakes, but sea serpents. In the dim pre-lawn light of Friday, January 11th, 1878, a man named Ben was driving his horse-drawn delivery wagon over the Roebling Suspension Bridge, where he saw the most unusual sight in the Ohio River below. He saw a sea serpent. He told the Cincinnati Gazette that the creature's serpentine head protruded from the water some 12 or 15 feet, and it had lashed the water into foam with its tail. He told the newspaper that the beast made a noise similar to the deep lowing of a cow with a loud hissing sound. A day previously, a man named John, master of the Silver Moon steamboat, saw a nearby identical monster while docked at Vevey, Indiana, where the mud mermaids are. In July of 1893, pleasure boaters near Blennerhassett Island saw a monstrous submarine animal, or what they thought was a serpent, with an immense head and staring bulbous eyes, gliding alongside their boat. The witness estimated the critter was at more than 10 feet in length. That's spooky. I wouldn't want to see that either. That's why I'm not a water person. I don't go out on boats. I don't like to go swimming in lakes, especially lakes in Ohio. Yeah, no thank you. The next topic is, this might be the last one. Yeah, this is the last one. It's called Underwater Pedestrian. Newspapers around the nation carried the news of July 1878 that Captain John T. Guire, identified as the celebrated submarine diver, had entered into a wager that he would walk from Cincinnati to Charo at the bottom of the Ohio River. Guire's previous exploits in the Mississippi River at St. Louis were cited as proof of his skill and determination. Although it was noted that Guire engaged in practice strolls near Cincinnati, it does not appear that the 500-mile underwater hike to Charo never materialized. So it never happened, or it did happen and he didn't survive. It doesn't really specify in this little paper clipping. Yeah, I just had to look. I guess that Captain John Guire, he'd actually chickened out and didn't do the expedition underwater like he wanted to. But that's still another curiosity of the Ohio River. Let me know in the comments which curiosity or mystery was your favorite. I am going to post a link to an interesting story about a murder on the Ohio River as well. That story was just too long for me to cliff note it, and it really needs its own link. So definitely check that out because there's been all kinds of things that are weird and creepy about the Ohio River, which is like our border, the southern border of the Ohio-Kentucky line, Ohio-Indiana line, Ohio-West Virginia line. You know what I mean? So definitely check it out. It's interesting. People don't swim in the Ohio River. You might catch some catfish or a sea serpent or a giant snake. It's kind of cool. So let me know what you think. Or if you have your own weird story about the Ohio River, email me at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com. Speaking of which, I have a story for you submitted by Robin Thomas. A few weeks ago in Canton, Ohio, my husband was out late on his way to his buddy's house. Right behind the Canton repository is a field leading over to the back of the Atlantic Foods. My husband swears he saw a skinwalker. He describes it as a grayish-white, almost see-through color with coal-black solid eyes, a short, almost snout, no lips, jagged and broken long teeth, a long beard of sorts, the only hair on its body, pointed ears, short arms, and long legs, claws on its human-like feet, an approximately 6 foot long, pointed tail that stood all the way up. Hubby says that they noticed each other at the same time and the both of them froze in place. He was very scared. He said every part of this being was on high alert. He said he yelled at the creature to get away, and the creature began to run in an almost sideways manner back into the trees, and he heard the claws on the pavement as it did this. Does this sound like he encountered a skinwalker? Ooh. P.S. No, my husband does not do drugs, so if anyone has any obnoxious comments about that, keep it to yourself. Yeah, that's very, very detailed. And oh my God, that definitely, if I would picture a skinwalker in my head, that's kind of what. So let me know what you think in the comments, what this could have been. I mean, they said it was grayish white, almost see-through, with coal black solid eyes, a short, almost snout, no lips, jagged and broken long teeth, a long beard, which was the only hair on its body was the long beard, pointed ears, short arms, long legs, claws on its human-like feet, and an approximately 6 foot long pointed tail that stood all the way up. I would have shit myself and probably passed out. Yeah, that would have been me. I would have been scared. Your husband's braver than I am, and I'm glad he made it home safe. Man, if you guys got a story that you would like to share with me, and then you want me to read it on this podcast, just shoot me an email with a short paragraph, or you can do a couple paragraphs, no more than 3 or 4 paragraphs. Definitely send it to me at underthemoonparapod@gmail.com, and I will read your story on the show. And if it's a super duper weird, scary, or spooky thing that makes me go, ugh, it gives me goosebumps, I'm going to save it for the October special that I do, all the listener stories that made me creep out of it this past year. So send me an email, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and share it with a friend that likes all things that are spooky. And until next time, stay spooky, my friends. One more thing before I go. This full moon, besides for it being the sturgeon moon, bark at the moon for OZZY. Rest in peace, OZZY.